that would be a betrayal of the trust that the Ghanaian people put in me on the 7th of January this year. And as a result, we established this committee within the government to design a policy for us, not just to stop it, to reclaim the land, to let our rivers work again, but also to see how we can figure a way for all these able-bodied young men who are involved in this activity to find an alternative livelihood. So it's a package. It's a package that we have designed to try and bring this menace to a conclusion. I've said it in the cabinet, and perhaps it's the first time I'll be saying it in public. I am prepared to put my presidency on the line on this matter.
Together with technical officers from the MINCOM, Minerals Commission, and the Forestry Commission.
You think the military is the way to go?
Yeah, as of now, we have no other alternative than to use them. You know, these miners, if you come here unarmed, you may be attacked. Yeah, no civilian can easily approach them to tell them to stop, unless our brothers in the military are here. Their uniform alone is enough scare to them.
So how soon should we expect this military deployment to this other forests?
Just next week it will happen. You see, there is one excavator.
Sorry.
Today pit. And as soon as they saw us, they fled.
Yeah.
It means that when we leave here, they will come back and work. So the action that we have to take here will have to be immediate. You see how they have devastated the forest. And it is not only this area. As we are being told, there are other areas of this. As we close one avenue today, they open another. For we are not regular on the ground. So if we should sack them from Bekwai, they move to Apamprama. If we sack them from Apamprama, then they move to Aparapi. That's what they do, right? So where they see that we are very active on the ground at this or that forest, they move to another forest. All the forest is full of gold. So they do some small geological work. They move into work.
So immediately, like you mentioned, next week, we should expect this deployment taking place.
Yes.
Do you have an idea of the number you would want to deploy?
Maybe
16,000 hectares, we are told.
Yes, if we come with 2 platoon, in military when they say platoon, it means 30 soldiers. So 2 platoon is 60 soldiers. 60 soldiers are around, nobody will come here.
But they still manage to break through even with the military or Vanguard team on the ground. They are still operating.
They are not here. Vanguard is not here. Are they here? They are not here. What the officer said was that there were some people who purportedly were in military uniform, and they assumed that they were military officers. We have met to revise our notes.
It was very good because I remember we going around, even with our board and management, to some of these areas to check on performance or to check on how things were going. And seriously, the campaign was good because in some of our treatment plants, for instance, we had reduced the volumes of or the quantities of chemicals that we were using for the treatment. We had seen improvement in the raw water quality, at least even with a naked eye, you could see. And in some areas like Chebi, the water after very few weeks was very clear, and you could see it. And some oldies that we had a chat with, old ladies that we had a chat with, actually admitted that this was how it used to be in times past before Galamsey set in and all that. So we're all hoping that it was going to continue like that. And then occasionally we'll hear of some operations somewhere and all that, and then we'll see a change. But then it was still okay, we're managing it. But now it's terrible. It's terrible. And
how
my
terrible
fear,
is it?
My fear now is that, for instance, in the western region, if we are not careful, we may have to shut down, especially our diversity treatment plant.
You heard it from Stanley Mante, who is with the Ghana Water Company Limited. But before that, you heard the presidency. Let's check if his presidency is on the line. He put his presidency on the line, really. And the lands minister, Kweku Asma Treme, was the one who was on the ground and showing us all of that, wreck, all of that havoc. And Stanley Mante is bringing us a perspective. If you don't think about it beyond the forest that we are destroying, then think about how close it's getting to you by the destruction of the water bodies. And the Ghana Water Company had told us earlier that in the next less than 10 years, if we are not careful, we may have to import water. Now that we don't import it, all right, let's see how it gets. So the new change by addition to our panel is Dr. Nadede Tego, project coordinator of the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. Thank you very much for joining us, Doc.
Thank you.
Okay, so educators, the Vanguard team, we understood, was sort of the panacea and was doing a good job and stopping all of this. Now the minister takes us to a place to show us, give us evidence that this is still going on. Where are we?
Thank you. To talk about Vanguard, Vanguard has done a wonderful job. It's a human institution, but Vanguard has done so well. In addition to Vanguard, we have another task force, that's a Galamsey task force. However, one thing we should accept about the situation is that it's not something that only Vanguard can do it. We as citizens, we all have to play our role. The minister talked about the fact that when you leave, when you're at one place, they move to the next place. Because they can't have omnipresence, we as citizens, especially those in the local communities, we see it before. Initially, they will start by building maybe some sort of structure. We don't talk about it. We wait until the situation has gotten out of hands.
And the type we see is the type they use, the heavy machines.
Yeah. Yes.
They call that, is it the Shanzin, or what is it?
The Chamfan.
Chamfan.
Yes. Okay, so the Chamfan is more or less like a brand. So it's a dredger.
It's a dredger.
Yes.
And it can't get to the place unnoticed.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can fix it over there. They can do it overnight.
Okay.
It's locally fabricated. So it's not something that I'll say it's always imported. That's what we thought initially. So what the Vanguard does this time is that whenever they see them fabricating it, they destroy it. And we'll call on citizens within the community to show us where these things are being done. They are so much resourced that the moment you destroy it, overnight you find another one. The rate at which we destroy it and the rate at which a new one is constructed, if not the same, I think the rate of construction goes ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us briefly, what's the success story so far? Because as it were, otherwise the president's presidency is on the line.
Okay. Okay, so I think somewhere in March 2017, there was a ban. And during the ban, the committee, the Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining was formed. And as he said, one of their responsibility was to ensure that policies are put in place to streamline the sector. One of the very first things that the committee did was to vet the license. And so the Minerals Commission presented approximately 1,003 licenses, and they were vetted. During the vetting, a few observations were made, and I would say that in our new program that we are going to launch, or we've started working on the community mining, we are going to improve on this. For instance, miners had nothing like their TIN number being associated with them. And so one could say that who is paying tax here? some names were somehow ghost names. You had you had to maybe, each group had to be like, normally you have a group of 10 miners forming one group or one mining group. We found that sometimes they had used a miner, and this is something that could have been checked if we were checking their 10 numbers. And so these additions have been put in place. So these miners were vetted, and after that, they were asked to go back to mine. There were quite a number of categories. We had Category A. Category A is the kind of miners who had paid all their license and fees and also had valid license. At the time the ban was lifted, I think we had approximately 5 companies only. But with time, we have, I think, over 221 who have paid everything. Some are also in the process of renewing their license.
So out of excess of 1,000 licenses that were vetted,
yes,
you had about 200, getting approved to get to continue their work. Is that what you're saying? Okay,
so in case of like fully qualified, we had, I think, less than 20 or so. I'm not sure of the number. I should have, I could check whilst here.
Okay.
But then there was a meeting with the small-scale miners, and they agreed that, looking at the fact that they had stayed at home for a long period of time, they should be allowed to mine, especially those with partial pass, should be allowed to mine. And with a partial, it's either you hadn't paid one fee or the other. And there's a particular fee, that is the operating permit, which is a yearly fee. So looking at the time that the ban was put in place, then it means that a lot of people hadn't paid their operating fee. So that's something that was considered. So we have over 500 people who are currently working. The remaining have multiple issues. What we did again was that we associated their 10 numbers with the company. And so we are still waiting for GRA to verify some people's 10 number. So it's still in the process. Some, it's a mere issue of 10. Others presented documents that did not belong to them. And so there was a need for power of attorney, which they haven't presented. We had a case where during the vetting, someone came in standing in for another person, but eventually happened that he was not sent. So these are a few things that one has to watch before.
These things that you have done,
yes,
or you have sought to do, how has it helped in checking the purpose for setting up your committee?
Okay, so these things, what we've done, for instance, once we had the list, which we update on a weekly basis, we send it to the Minerals Commission, we send it to all the agencies, we send it to the Chief Executive. So if you want to mine, usually you would go, if within a particular enclave, you would go to the Chief Executive and he will check whether your company name is in the list. And so they have a fair idea of the companies that they are expecting within their jurisdiction. So one, it has helped to see those who are legal and those who are illegal. One of the things that we did was with the database that we've created, we have a QR code where one can access, or regulators can access on site to know whether your company has a valid license or not. Which means that if I'm from Minerals Commission and I'm doing a regular check, I need not pick all my documents. I don't need so many documents before I can find out. With my QR code, I'll be able to validate whatever information that will be given to me by...
So those that you have certified to do the work, is there a way to monitor to ensure that whilst they are legal, they are not doing the illegal thing?
Okay, that's something that has been done. So currently, that's what Operation Vanguard does. That's what the IMCIM task force does. And in some areas, or most of the areas where we have drones, that's what they do. The role of the drone pilot is to check that they work within their boundaries. So we've given a particular boundary. We did, prior to vetting, we had mapped everybody's boundary as said by the person and compared it with what was available. And so usually, one of their routines is to, once a while, pick one company and just map around that the boundaries of the concession. So
from what we have seen by this example that the minister shows us, I can imagine without you and the Vanguard and the other team being on the ground, what the situation would have been. But from what we have seen, what would be your challenge? And would you contest someone who says you have failed?
No, I don't think we have failed. It's a fight that has to be sustained. The people on the ground need to know that we are serious about it. And personally, and from what I've heard from most of the large-scale mining companies, it's a routine. What miners usually will do, getting in an election year, is that they know that politicians in quote need their votes.
Blackmail.
Yes, so it's blackmail. So if at this time we make sure that we sustain the fight, they will know that that era is no more.
That's one of your major challenges.
Yes, so that's something we have to do. And we here is the team on the ground, is the media. This is the time we need you most. This is the time that you need to talk more about it. The task force will do their work, but every hands should be on deck at this point, being an election year. Because much as we have a lot of illegal miners, we have many more Ghanaians that we need to care about their lives. We need to care about their health issues.
Okay, so you pause and let's hear from Mona, and she has a perspective because of a certain understanding of some of these issues. Yes, what do you have to say about what we are looking at now?
Thank you very much, Samson. This is an issue that has disturbed all of us, and it's disturbed all of us in terms of the environment, it's disturbed some of us in terms of business. I mean, like I told you earlier, I'm a director of a gold mining company who spends a lot of money on making sure that we are paying for permits to Minerals Commission. We are doing what we must do with respect to Environmental Protection Agency, the payments that must go. There's a lot that is involved in being a mining company. I do appreciate that there are various sizes, the large mining companies, the small-scale mining companies. And as for the illegals, they play in a different land, space. And what they do affects those of us who even have licenses, and we are responsible and we are doing what is right. Because sometimes they attack us. They come into our space, into our concession space. They come into our communities. One of the big things is that I think it's time for an agency like yourself to pierce the veil of the beneficial owners of these illegal operations. It's one thing seeing the minister going there, burning everything down, and everything that you've told us, which is laudable. However, we need to find out who these owners are. Sometimes we say they are foreigners. Who gives these foreigners the permission? Who partners with some of these foreigners? The actual owners who are hiding, because as for the Chinese or any nationality, we see them on the ground working, we grab them. But the true owner, who is that Ghanaian, who is sitting in the back, I think that you must be given that authority to be able to pierce the veil and go and grab those owners. Some of them may turn out to be people that we all respect very much, maybe traditional authorities and so forth. But one or two will send the right signals out that they cannot continue in doing this. I think what is important for me, apart from that, is that the security service, even as we use them to go and grab, there are many times when you are not there, the task force or the minister, they turn a blind eye. Worst of all is the community. And I know, Dr. Tego, that you mentioned that the community must help you. But at this point in time, what we all see the community doing is either sit back quietly and take a little bit of, as it were, mafia tax, or even participate. They join in, and then we hear of them dying. We see women, pregnant women, women with babies on their back. I go around in Prestia and Wassa, and I see people who ordinarily would say that they can't even sweep a compound, actively participating in dangerous mining. So it's as if the motivation, of course, to get these extra funds galvanizes them to do these things. I think one of the issues that your task force needs to raise strongly is communication. To date, the communication is still a problem. The narrative has to change. The community must see, in pictorial form perhaps, the future of their community. The people who are doing these mining activities illegal will go away when the resource is no longer there. What will you have left? you, the community, will be living in hell. You'll be expecting government to come and spend money to clean up your community, give you better water at a higher price than they usually give everybody else, because your rivers are so turbid.
And you would have
killed
many.
You would have killed off your animals, because as you push back, yes, your livelihood is gone. Your animals are gone. Yeah. Your flora, your fauna, your agric, your farms that you used to do. You yourself are no longer interested in farming. You've become lazy. One needs to paint that picture for them to see it. Because for now, it is, what will I get today? I need to feed my child today. My child needs to go to school today. But you need to paint that picture for them. So I think the narrative has to change in terms of communicating with the community. Because as you said, they are your key people. They are the ones who will tell you what is happening and what is not happening. And for them to do so, they must feel comfortable to do that. They must be, unfortunately, be fearful of the long-term effects of what is going on. I don't like the idea that you frighten people into doing things ordinarily, even though I'm a finance person. I don't usually like that. But in this particular case, I think that they must be presented with what the long term could look like, and that should incentivize them to help to curb this matter.
And that will get them to stop the blackmail.
To stop the blackmail.
As we go into elections, because that's, for many who understand the dynamics in this field, this is
because the community may not want to give up the MP, who is actually the beneficial owner, but that person must be brought out. Okay. And when I say MP, it can be any. I mean, I'm not being political.
We take a break here. We'll be back to continue, and I will seek from Dr. Tego some statistics, if she has them readily, about, if we talk about success, how do we measure the success? And so on and so forth. And guys like Kofi Bentil are simply saying the president should simply fire any DC or MC whose area people are found to be doing mining illegally. That's the best way not to risk his presidency, which he has put on the line. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And like I asked a question earlier before we went to the break, we'd like Dr. Tego to give us an idea of how we measure the success of the Inter-Ministerial team that is ensuring that the president's presidency, which is on the line, and the line now is very short, how he gets a rescue. So when we say we have been successful, what are the numbers? What are we looking at?
Okay, thank you. When the ban was put in place, so far, the government has trained 4,500 miners. Yes, it's a small number looking at the entire group, but the idea here is more like train the trainers. And so per our expectation, we're expecting that at least one miner should be, one trained miner will be on every side.
So people are being trained to do responsible mining.
And this is something that will keep on. Every vacation is going to happen. The training is usually done by the University of Mines and Technology. And I know this year another about 2,000 will be trained during the holidays. And so in terms of the promises that he made, that he would ensure responsible mining, one of the steps that he took was to train the miners.
So it's not just about driving these illegal miners away.
No.
It's about first stopping them from doing the illegal mining and then taking them through a process of rehabilitation.
Exactly.
To get them to acquire the skills to do it well.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we look here, we're looking at the scenario where we want to believe that some miners really don't know what is right. And so there was a need to consider it from that angle and train them. Making sure that at least you have put in that step to make sure that they know what is right. So training the miners was one of the things he has done and will continue to do. Another thing was that there are two groups of people generally, in my view here. There's a group that you can tell them to stop mining. And there's the other group that you cannot convince. If you look at the scenario of what happened at Elembele, where 4 people died, this is an illegal pit. First and foremost, I want to say that my sympathy to the family of this group. But if you look at the fact that miners are ready to put their life in such an awkward situation to go deep in a pit which has not been maintained.
So those who are doing the wrong thing that we had to arrest them and all, what numbers do we have? How many getting prosecuted? How many getting into jail for the wrong things? Or it's just a period of arrest you and say, don't do the wrong thing again. Come back, let's teach you how to do it right. Okay, so with the arrests, so far I know that there are over 15 cases in the courts. The new law gives the opportunity for, if found guilty, 20 to 25 years. However, looking at the court system, which has to be respected, the issue of bail comes in again as a disadvantage. I'm not saying bail is not good, but it comes in as a disadvantage because they are on bail. And during the period that they're on bail, they do what they like. They go back there. Really? They go back to different sites. They might not go to this, like you heard over there. They might go to another site. They are daring. They are thinking we'll give up. It's the mindset. They've been doing this for a long period. They know that when we do it to a point, we will give up eventually. So people are banging their hopes on when we are going to give up. Are there targets you have set for yourself? If you can do that in a minute, and then I'll hear Doc and Ms. Abochi. Yeah.
Okay, so like I spoke about the training. One other thing is that, like I also spoke about the fact that there are another group that would always mine. And so for that group, the government has come up with another concept called the community mining. And the community mining is a way to encourage responsible mining, inclusive and sustainable mining. One of the main things that we are hoping is to get approximately not less than 1,000 concessions. And when we are able to get these 1,000 concessions, then we can say that we have provided in every district a place for our people who want to still mine to mine. In providing that place, one, we have taken the responsibility to do the demarcation. And so those places are not close to water bodies. They are not in forest reserves. So far, we've done about 360 community mine. We've demarcated 360, and we are yet to still demarcate other ones.
Okay. Professor Bokwin, what do you say?
Something I'm deeply worried and concerned.
But the threat is minimized from what she tells us.
No, not at all. Because the evidence you showed earlier and the fact that how much it's costing Ghana Water Company to treat water and the threat to shut down clearly does not support to a large extent. I'm not saying you are not working, okay, because the way I'm looking at your performance is perhaps different from the number of people you have trained. Because I want to see certain results in terms of the quality of water, in terms of water bodies, the less distraction to forest reserves, and all of that. Even
there's admission that initially, when the campaign started, things improved.
Yes, and that is why I'm saying that I'm getting worried, because there was a certain sense of hope when the president intervened, somewhere 2017, and we thought that, okay, it was enough, we should just go to bed. But it looks like we just have to come back again. And I think that we cannot look to maybe the task force alone, perhaps the media, civil society. We need to get back again and say that, you know what, let's see this as a collective responsibility, rather than just confining it to only the task force. And I'm not saying you are not working hard, but
we know we are working, because the water body changing could be just one or two companies.
The variance will be very high from the way you have scored yourself. Okay. And also, again, from what I'm hearing from
a teacher talking and scoring you, but he doesn't teach at the law school.
But something, you see, within the broader context of climate change, I'm concerned, because as we speak right now, Ghana will be losing more than 30% of our physical infrastructure stock, road, to climate change alone. And all these things do not help us in any way. And we are talking about the rural economy. We are destroying the rural economy. And this is not good. You know what? We are not even importing water. And look at what's happening to the city. And when we get to the point of importing water, then what will happen?
Yes. Now, so what do you have to say about this? Are you still that worried as we started the campaign? It's a campaign that was actually started by the media, and the president bought in nicely and put, the power of the state behind it.
First of all, let's start by acknowledging that we have moved from somewhere. and we have made progress. I think for the first time in the history of Ghana, Galamsey has been made a public policy frontline conversation. It was backseat, back burner. We all knew about it, but it wasn't really a serious issue.
Right.
For the first time, it has become a major issue. The president has been bold and open to say that he's going to make his administration accountable for this. That demonstrates the level of intensity that the subject has attained in our national discourse. That is progress. Again, another progress is the establishment of Dr. Tego's committee, which is supposed, therefore, to be a standing committee. Hopefully, we'll be there. You know,
it was established a while back.
It was established a while
Yes,
back. Okay, I didn't know about that. But yes, okay.
Well,
so before 2016. Okay, so
2017.
But we did have an inter-ministerial task force under Minister Inusa, who did similar going around.
Was there a task force at the level of the presidency or at the ministry?
At the level of the minister.
I thought it was
not at the presidency.
But this is the president.
It's the presidency.
Okay. So
now it's at the presidency.
I think there has been some level of intensity and intervention at the discussion. So I would like us to acknowledge that. I think we've made some progress. Question is, how far have we come? And how far more can we go? I think Prof made a point about climate change. We should look at this in that broader context. Nations are on the verge of going to war, and it has been estimated that 2030 and beyond, there are a lot of international wars between countries will be because of fight over access to water. Now, this is something we're playing with. Because there's so many things we can all do without. Water is not one of them. We can't do without that. So it's a survival issue. As we all speak, I'm sure we are aware of the brewing problem between Ethiopia and Egypt in respect of access to the Nile because of some damming that Egypt wants. Water is such an important thing in the life of a country that we can't just compromise with that. And unfortunately, a lot of Galamsey is either in the water itself or on the banks of water. From what we saw, the picture we saw, one thing which is clear is the removal of the forest cover and the grass cover. It's an incident of mining, and particularly for a small scale because surface, it's an incident of that. Now, these things get removed, and it takes decades sometimes to get them back. And given all things that we know, in this case, we are probably just not going to get them back. We have the desert running very fast towards us from Burkina Faso. And as we're supposed to be working towards the desert by planting trees and ensuring that there's some cover as far as the soil is concerned, we are rather removing the existing cover all in the name of these short-term economic gains. So I support your call that it's about time we start asking the key question of who are the people behind these Galamsey enterprises. Because until we start shaming, we are not going to make much progress. Sadly, the people behind these are supposed to be the responsible people in our society. And so we have to take that fight on. And it's an important one that I support. Another thing, another point I want to make, and just a suggestion, is let's try and get a sense of community ownership of the fight. I don't know the extent to which we can exploit the information services in pushing this across, but let people see pictures of desertification and of the poverty that comes with the destruction of the local economy. The fact that when the forest cover is removed, the fact that when water is polluted, and the fact that when we lose the small vegetation and the forest resources that we have, very soon communities cannot have sustainable livelihoods.
There's a question from a Gomez in Cape Coast. He says that I should ask Dr. Nade De Tego if the chairman of the IMCIM, that's your committee, you are aware of a different task force apart from the Vanguard and the one you mentioned that is going around, and that there's a task force that also goes around in the name of Professor Frimpong Boateng to operate. He feels that some things are not working correct. That's maybe what we heard. Some people are in military uniform and they are actually not the task force, but they are going around and they are deceiving. What do you know about that? Just 1 minute, we are run out of time.
I know that there are two groups of people, the Vanguard and the IMCIM task force. I don't know about any other one. One of the challenges is that sometimes I don't know where they get the uniform. We have groups of people who get themselves armed, get the uniform and act as military personnel. And also act as people who receive the information. In that way, they don't report back to us. So that is a challenge.
Okay.
But I know of 2 groups.
Right.
And then I want to say something about the community work. We've done a lot of community work. We've been in the community. The Minister of Chieftaincy has invited chiefs on 2 occasions in Accra, has gone to the people on the ground, has spoken to them, has told them the effects. It's been done over and over again in most of these mining communities.
Thank you. And on the issue we did before we came to this one, lawyers for Dr. Johnson Esiama, you know him, former deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, issue a statement to me on Newsfile, and they say Dr. Johnson Esiama on Friday, January 10, 2020, received a text message from one DSP Apietu of the Special Investigation Team to report on the 13th, as 3 days later, 2020, Dr. Esiama instructed us, that's his lawyers, to write to the investigative team to reschedule the invitation to the week commencing 20th January 2020, as he was not immediately available. The team received and acknowledged the letter. All attempts by his lawyers for Dr. Esiama to reschedule the said invitation have proved futile. Dr. Esiama is ready and willing to avail himself whenever the team reschedules the said appointment. So for those of you running with news that he too is running away and is being sought after, that is for you from his lawyers. As I understand, not only Dr. Dufo, but also his son, Junior, all of them have issued processes in the court to try and avoid some of the claims that are going on. I want to say thank you very much to my guests for this morning. Before I say that, 2 special happy birthdays to 2 special women. Happy 50th to Ohenere Gifty Auntie. Keep bringing hope and smiles to hopeless homes and empowering women and girls for a better Ghana. And happy 75th to Elizabeth Ohene. When the gun was still smoking, she dared, as the editor of the graphic, to speak up against coup makers. I doubt how many people in public office today can defy their, as it were, bosses and stay with rights, so to speak. All right, so thank you very much. This has been Newsfile. As always, my outfit is by Latida Be in Vogue. My guests have been Professor Godfred A. Bokwing, economist and professor of finance, University of Ghana. Madam Mona Korte is managing partner, BVM Advisory Services, and former deputy minister of finance. Ernest Kofi Abuchi is immediate past dean, Gimpa Law School, and Dr. Nadede Tego is project coordinator, Inter-Ministerial Committee on Illegal Mining. Thank you all very much. Have a good afternoon.